going to begin the afternoon sessions with a panel discussion called The Golden Age of Fake News. And I'm going to begin by introducing our moderator. In my opinion, she's the best broadcast journalist in the gold sector and the face of Kitco News. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Daniela Cambone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And Jay, thank you so much for that very nice introduction. We have a great panel for you today. We're going to be talking real facts versus fake news. I know as investors, we have a lot of information thrown at us, and sometimes it's hard to decipher what's real, what's not when it comes to gold prices and picking the right mining stocks. So we have an all-star panel for you today. We have Brent Cook, famed geologist, founder of Exploration Insights. I know Brent for a long time. He was one of the first people I ever interviewed 9 years ago on Kitco News. So Brent, thanks for joining us today. We have Ivan Bebek, chairman of Auryn Resources. Ivan, welcome back. And E.B. Tucker, editor over at KC Research. He works closely with Doug Casey. And in my opinion, he's one of the brightest talents to break through into our space lately. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
It's a very interesting week for metal prices. We're going to start by looking at gold, falling below key support of 1,300 this week. Some would say that gold is in a bad place right now, that investors are disinterested in the metal. So is this fake news or real? Ivan?
Okay, fair enough. Good question.
How's that for the dramatic intro?
Well done. As far as the gold market in general being in a bad place right now, I'm going to call that fake news. And I'm going to say this for a few reasons. Number one, assets are cheaper than they've ever been in terms of a company to go and acquire them. People to go find the gold mines are available to go find those. If we were at $1,700 gold right now and our share price was $7 a share, not $1.70 a share Canadian, and you asked me with the same stuff that's going on where we're now, are we a buy at $7? I'd have a real hard time saying yes, because we'd be inflated well beyond our price. So for me, the deep discount in our company and the opportunity to acquire real assets and real people makes this the best shopping place to be ever. And as an investor, it's the easiest market to ever buy into because you're buying such a deep discounted market that's so super for sale. So it's very easy to buy into this market because everything is obviously cheap. So that's my take there.
EB, you had told me not too long ago you want a gold rally, you're going to get one. And you're nodding, you're still sticking to that?
You will get one. Yeah, I think gold looks a lot better than people think it looks. I mean, it's flat for the year. The S&P is flat for the year. I'd much rather own ounces of gold than shares in the S&P. The S&P is heavily tech weighted at the moment. I think that's going to change. As those rotations happen, there can be a lot of turmoil. With gold, gold's an asset. There's no counterparty. And the thing people don't understand is that you can't use emotion in making decisions with your money. You've got to think strategically. You've got to buy things when no one wants them. And then when everyone wants something, you sell it to them. Everything has a price. No one wants gold right now. It's a perfect time to buy gold.
How do you see it, Brent?
I would sort of disagree. I think it's in a rather bad spot right now. I don't see the U.S. economy, the global economy is doing fairly well. Rates are rising. So I don't see a lot of positive events that are going to bring the gold price up. Accepting, I think there's probably in the order of a 25% chance that Trump tweets out something that really rocks the gold price. Not something I want to see, but I think that's what you've got to keep in mind. However, in terms of investing in this sector, particularly the junior sector, I agree. It's a good time to be looking at these things, and you can buy quality for the most part at a reasonable price, if not a discount, if you're willing to go down the food chain and look at the early stage exploration projects, which is where the major mining companies are looking right now.
Well, for Ivan and Evie, who are more optimistic, how are your personal portfolios doing if you're so bullish gold the gold price here?
My portfolio is gold heavily weighted, meaning gold stocks and whatnot. It's obviously diversified because I'm not one-way thinking, but it's a long-term portfolio. You know, its largest position is my own company, which I don't sell a share until we sell the company. So for me, I'm really immune to the short-term volatility in my portfolio, but I'm really happy as a long-term investor because I don't feel it can get much lower, and I think that I only have upside to look forward to.
Look, I like gold royalties, silver royalties. I like the royalty business model because you get a percentage of what's mined. I couldn't find the type of royalty company that I wanted, so I started one. I'm a major shareholder there. We're up 25% this year. We pay a dividend. So people talk about the terrible market. I have to look outside of my portfolio to see the terrible market.
All right. Brett, do you think that mainstream media gets gold? Because a lot of people would say they hate gold.
No, I don't think mainstream media gets gold.
And of course, not Kitco News is included.
No,
in this,
Kitco is the place to go for news on gold, for sure.
Thank you for that plug, Brent.
No, I don't think the mainstream media gets it or even cares about gold. It's a very minor sector, except up here in Canada and Australia, maybe. But on the whole, it's just not covered. And you see that there's very, very, very little institutional money coming into this sector, which, again, points to what EB's getting at here, is that this stuff, in certain instances, is very cheap. So no, they don't get it.
Ivan, you were smiling with that point.
No, it's my homepage is Kitco as well, but you know what? I think I'll add one layer there, and I've been a big buyer of the gold market, our companies as well as others. And I think if you think of your portfolio, there's two exciting times: when you buy something and when you sell something. The time that's toughest for me as an investor is in between those two transactions of buying or selling, because you generally don't know what to do or you're waiting for things to happen. So being a buyer right now, it's an exciting time. And does the gold market, is it properly understood? I certainly don't think so now.
It can be an exciting time if you can pick the right people, the winners, right? And that's what I want to kind of talk about now. And Brent brought us a slide, which I'm going to put up in a second, because there's so many companies out there. Everyone has the next big thing, the next big discovery. So how do you decipher from what's real, what's not, what's a great deposit? So I'm just going to pull up something Brent bought. I hope I can get this to work. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
I used this earlier yesterday, actually, in my presentation. And the negative in some respects in this market right now is it's not one where it's a greater fool theory where you can sell to someone more foolish than you. You've got to buy something, understand what it's all about, with the intention that you can sell it to someone who's smarter than you, that being a major mining company. So it's all about due diligence right now. When someone puts out a news release, you have to actually put it into context. And they have to present you with the data. And what I've got here is an actual news release from a couple of weeks back. We got rid of the company name. We'll call it XYZ is halted and announces 156 meters grading 1.25 grams. Nice hit, including 1.5 meters at 86 grams from the central porphyry zone. So beneath that, you can see the pink, and that's a cross-section through it. I've got the arrow to where that intersection was. What happens if you take that 1.5 meter section out of the 158 meter section, you're left with the residual grade of 156 meters grading 0.4, what is that, 4 grams a ton. So that one interval has been smeared across that big interval. And what's critical in this, and this is a deposit that's been drilled out, they've got, 2.3 million ounces grading 1 gram per ton, and they used a cutoff, basal cutoff for this resource estimate of 0.45 grams a ton, meaning anything below that is probably waste and uneconomic. So almost that entire hole is waste. It's uneconomic. So if you can read that and figure that something out, it's like, all right, bingo, I'm not going to buy that. There's a problem here.
Well,
so what Brent's saying is, in layman's terms, is you've got a clunker of a car and you polish up the tires and make it look nice and you push it into the dealership and you hope you can get out of there before they try to start it up. I mean, it's exactly correct. I mean, Doug and I use a mnemonic called the 8 Ps. Okay. You might have heard of this. It's people and property and financing, and we have these things that we go through. So I mean, this hits right on one of them. I mean, if you analyze this, it misses. I mean, financing's a big one. If the company is torching money and they're spending $400,000 or $500,000 a month flying around the world and paying each other and doing God knows what with your money, they're going to need more of it. And if it's a declining market, they're going to have to raise more at lower prices. And so as you work through these things, you can sift through what's out there. There's thousands of junior companies, and some of them are going to do really well, and lots of them are going to fail. And the goal is to eliminate things like this.
Just on a note there, and it's a great catch if you're a scientist like Brent, well-respected one who knows what he's doing. But a lot of people in this room would see that intercept and they would say, well, is that a good hole or not? And they wouldn't be able to distinguish. So I'll just throw out one little good rule of thumb, and it goes off the 8 Ps that you guys follow is, there's a saying in our business, you're as good as your last deal. And if you follow somebody by what they did in their last company or companies, you can expect that to be repeated and possibly improved. So look to management before you go and make that full all-in into the deal. That would be my best, simplest point of reference.
Are there other red flags for any of you that you look for?
Well, certainly management is key, especially the smaller the company. And even if you don't get everything that's in a news release, if a company puts out a news release, it should include a cross-section, a map, detailed information as to what the assays are, that sort of thing. And if it's there, it tells you they're trying to be honest, they're trying to give you all the information you can get, and they're competent. If someone puts out a drill map or a drill release with no map, no sections, no nothing, it tells you either they're trying to hide something or they're incompetent. Either way, walk away, go to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. The walking around these booths and meeting with management and spending 2 minutes talking to someone, you can eliminate half of the scumbags that might have nefarious intent. And it's really true, because there are guys out there trying to put something real together, and I've had several meetings in town this week with people I think will be successful this summer. Remember, a lot of this stuff happens up north where everything's frozen, so this is a great time of year to be being selective and seeing what you want to own for the summer season, because the drills don't really turn through the ice in the wintertime. So I mean, it's seasonal. You've got macro, you've got micro. I mean, the big picture matters. This is a time of year I think that you start to go shopping.
Ivan?
Yeah, I think one last layer. If you really like your hole and you're going to tell everybody it's that good, you're going to make a dramatic entrance, look for the inside buying. Follow any of these juniors. Anyone that's pitching you a story that's too good to be true, everything is cheap. It's cheaper than cheap. If people aren't buying their own companies and they're telling you things are better than this or that, they don't have to buy a lot, but look for some inside buying. That's a real simple tell on the liar or the truth that you'll get out of these companies.
Or, just another layer to that. I meet a lot of investors who sometimes just don't know when to let go. When just to say goodbye to that stock. So when should you part ways and break up? How do you know when it's time to let go, Brett?
That's a really good question. That is the hardest thing.
Breaking up is hard to do.
You gonna sing?
No, I'll save you guys that.
But there's a chart you've all seen where the typical exploration story, it rises, then it finally falls, and then it might go back up or not. It rises because of good results. It falls because there's a fatal flaw. Really, the majority of exploration projects are going to fail. We know that. So Joe Mazumdar and myself, in our letter, we're always looking for the fatal flaw. And we've made as much money, if not more, on stocks that ultimately failed because we saw some results that were encouraging. We bought the stock, we followed it up, but eventually something came in that told us this isn't going to work, be it metallurgy, be it size, be it grade. And so you really do have to follow these things in this sort of market, because your competition is the major mining companies, and that's who you want to sell to. So I think it's critical. And I'd like to say, it's easy to do, but it's not. I think you need good advice, either a broker or a brother or a newsletter writer, someone who you trust that can interpret this sort of thing, you're a brain surgeon. You know nothing about mining.
Just a brief point there. Pick your prices. If you buy something at $1 and you say, I'd be happy selling this at $5, sell it at $5. Don't sit there changing your targets all the time unless you keep a small portion of it. Hochschild made all his money selling early. He never made $1 selling late, right? So yeah, I might not guess the market right, but if I get 5 times my money and I don't take 60 or 70% of my money off the table, shame on me, I'm holding it too long.
Okay, so basically, like Warren Buffett says, don't get too greedy, right?
Hard when you're dealing with gold, but yes,
Yes.
we try.
Yeah. Well, look, years ago, I decided as an investor I had to come up with a system if I was going to survive in this market, and so I came up with a system of the way I make an investment, and it's a size. There's a range. So I have a range that I'll do in any deal, and I'll sell at certain times, and I stick with that. Otherwise, I hear one story and I think, well, this has got to work, And we've all heard these stories, and sometimes they do work, but a lot of times they don't. So I don't have a bunch of deals that are one size and then one tremendous deal, and so and this isn't things that I'm not involved in, right? So, but to Brent's point, you got to keep your head on straight, and it's hard to do that. So come up with some rules, and then evaluate as things go on, and keep notes, and sell out at the proper time, and don't be afraid to take your cost off the table.
One thing I've learned the hard way is you go into an investment company with a thesis that this is going to be a porphyry copper deposit and they need to do this, and it doesn't work, and your investment thesis changes from knowing what you're doing to hope. Once your investment thesis turns to hope, you've lost. And I've gotten to be real critical. If something doesn't work, I'm gone. I don't care if I win, lose, I'm out of there. You got to cut your losses real quick in these things.
And is it a true statement to say you don't necessarily need a gold or silver rally to make money in the space? Right? I think a lot of times investors, right, when are we going to get that gold or silver rally? And I just want to sometimes say, well, you don't necessarily need a rally to still be able to make money. Would you agree with that?
2014, we sold a company where we drilled 100 holes. We didn't have a resource amidst the bear market for $200 million. If you bought us a year before, you got 5 times your money. Case in point, to your point, you don't need a big rally to make money. You'll make a lot more money in that, but there's always an opportunity that exists in both markets, good and bad.
Yeah, we had, again with the royalty company, we're up 25% this year, and everyone's down. I think that'll continue, and then if gold does rally, the stock goes much higher. And look, it's a lot easier to pick your investments in this type of market. I mean, when this conference is 3 times the size and they add an extra day to it, and there's hundreds and hundreds more companies, and gold's $1,700, you think you'll be happy, but actually you won't, because everything changes. Right now, you can have time with the CEO today. He'll go meet you for a coffee right now and tell you what's going on. You can do your research, you can do your diligence, and so to me, this is the time when you're more excited. When things are high, you should be selling.
And EB, last time we spoke, you were seeing much more upside on the silver front versus gold stock. So are you sticking?
Yeah, I like silver. I mean, silver is
right.
wild. It does crazy things when it starts moving, and I think that silver can be in the right stock. It can be a way to have gearing in your portfolio. What that means is that you hit a different gear with silver. There are gold companies that'll double as gold moves, and there's silver companies that'll legitimately go 10 times. And they have projects that say there's $10 an ounce cost, and silver goes from 16 to 25, which is absolutely possible. And that's economics that gold producers oftentimes can't get.
Ivan, Brett, where do you see more upside potential, gold or silver stocks? Without putting your personal biases in there.
I'm agnostic. I don't really care what the metal is. Again, what I'm looking for is a very high quality project, deposit, early stage, that a major mining company is going to buy. And in all metals right now, at least the base metals and precious metals, the mining companies do not have the reserves in front of them to replace what they're mining. So they're getting desperate. And you're seeing that with them putting a lot of money into juniors, although the retail side and the institutional side is not putting money into the sector. Kinross, Barrick, Newcrest, Goldcorp, Newmont, Oceana, they're all putting money, lots of money, into the junior companies that they think have the chance of generating what they're looking for 2 to 3 years down the road.
I'll echo what Brent said because our business plan is exactly what he said. We're looking for things that the majors want. Goldcorp invested $35 million into us for that exact reason. It's not a complicated business plan. So price of metal is important. At the end of the day, it does make things better, but it's not what drives us. We all know the price will sort itself out. It's the lack of discoveries being made. And here's a fact. The last major mine in the world, being 5 million ounces or larger, that was discovered was 7 years ago, 2011, by Agnico Eagle. It was Amaruq. That's the last one found in the last 7 years. It's not as easy to find these ounces anymore on the globe. So if you get into a company that has a shot or many shots at finding something substantial, that's the one you want to find.
I'm happy you brought up that point, Ivan, because the talk of peak gold and peak silver is highly debated in our industry. So who on the panel here thinks we are at peak production?
I think we are. There's no shortage of gold in the world. Right? There's 3 trillion ounces in the ocean. What we're short of is economic deposits. And that's not going to be solved easily because it's getting so much harder to find new deposits because we've explored the world at surface almost everywhere. There's very few surface discoveries left. So we're looking deeper, we're looking undercover. You need better deposits to compensate for those issues. So we are at an interesting point in time where demand is going up, producers need new deposits, and we're not going to find them fast enough to replace that. So a discovery is going to be worth a lot of money.
Just one little layer to add, which I agree with Brent, is the high grading your mines in downturns. You get low gold prices, you mine just the high grade, but you destroy all the low grade around the mine. So the capital cost to put all of that back into a mill when gold prices go up, it's not an easy switch to turn. It's a ridiculous amount of capital. So not only is the demand an issue, but we're ruining the big mines that would be perceived as the future production. So I think we're passing peak production. I'll say it again, yes, for sure.
I don't believe in peak anything. If the price gets high enough, the technology and the problem with the gold business is the lack of investment. And I think if you go back 20, 30, 40 years, you see these cycles of dollars coming into the sector, and the sector is starved for money, in my opinion. And keep in mind, I look at things from the big picture. It's how I make most of my decisions. And I think you just take a page from the oil market. I mean, you look at we cover a lot of oil stocks, and we've seen what happened with $140 oil. You had scientists completely committing themselves to figuring out how to rip it out of the earth. So I mean, to these guys' point though, there hasn't been a huge gold discovery in a long time. I mean, 30, 40 million ounce gold discoveries have happened, and they haven't happened in quite some time. And so who's looking for them? I mean, there's not even a lot of guys looking. I mean, people here looking for them. It's not that many people here. So. No. So if you see a high enough price, which I think you will, then you'll see a lot of people looking for them. Yeah.
Brett, do you think we're close to finding the next big discovery? I know you go to a lot of sites.
Next big discovery.
Right. And in which area of the world?
Well, where the big ones have been found before. Certainly the Andes. I'm looking. I own a stock called Auryn Resources, and they've staked some big alteration systems, district scale stuff. They have yet to make a discovery, but that's where it's going to be made, is in places like that. You never know where the next big discovery is really until it happens, I'm afraid.
But do you think we're close?
Oh yeah, within geologically speaking, we are that close.
I agree with Brent on the Andes. Some of the biggest mines in the world are in the Andes, and we're there. There's a bias there, but I'll share it because Brent said it first. Northern Canada, where we are in Committee Bay, the last big mine, which 5 million ounces, Agnico Eagle's Amaruq deposit, is right next door to us. I think the frontier of high-grade gold deposits that are going to be found that we all talk about for years to come are probably Northern Canada. They're not going to be easy. Are we close as an industry? A few of us might be very close, but I think that a lot less people are looking, and so there might be one or two found, but there won't be a lot of them found, to be fair.
I hope when it's found, I have a royalty on it.
We won't give royalty.
Evie, you were saying, there's a lot of people here obviously looking for the next big discovery, but along those lines, I want to ask, do you think the industry as a whole is doing a good job of promoting mining, getting people riled up, excited about the space, or can more be done here, Brent?
No, it hasn't done a good job at all, and I don't know what the answer or solution is, I'm afraid.
Wow, you're speechless on that one. A few things leave you speechless. Ivan, I know you're in a bit of a biased position here, but
if we all sat up here in 2016, there was a lot of really good money that was made off these penny stocks that have been super discounted. So I think we're stuck in the washing machine of a cycle, and we're really good at promoting our industry when it's good, and we're really bad at it when it's down. So we go with that.
Well, this is the nature of things. No one's interested when it's a good time to buy, and everyone's interested when it's a good time to sell. So what's going to happen is someone is going to find a giant gold deposit, and the stock is going to go from pennies to many, many dollars. And there's going to be articles about it on the front page of USA Today and other newspapers that are a waste of time to read. And then there's going to be all kinds of people that want to own gold stocks, and that'll be a good time to sell gold stocks. Yeah.
they're counting me down over here, but I think for these fine people in the audience, it'd be great to get some takeaways of things you're investing in and stocks you're liking. EB, let's start with you.
Yeah, so
Metalla, right?
Yeah, I'm on the board of Metalla Royalty and Streaming. The ticker's MTA on the Canadian exchange. It's MTAFF in the U.S. I've bought 1% of the company in the open market. You can track my buys. We pay a monthly dividend. And the reason why I like the royalty business is because owning 1 or 2% of production is a whole lot better than being in the production business, and that's just my experience. It's my preference. I mean, if I had Brent's knowledge underground, I would probably feel differently. But I enjoy getting a monthly check that's tied to the price of gold and silver.
I have to speak to the two big investments that I've been making is our own companies, Auryn, AUG on New York and Toronto, and Torque, TORQ. Both have portfolios. One is growing a portfolio in Torque. Auryn is in the third year of heavy lifting to go find the world's next big gold deposit. We think we unlock it this summer, but ultimately these are two things I trust most because I'm involved in running them, and we have arguably one of the deeper technical teams in the business, and that's going to be what gets us efficiently there first.
Let me put up the final slide for you while you speak, Brent. This is for you. There you go.
The point on this slide being that you need to know what you don't know and accept that. If you think you know everything, you don't, and you're making a big mistake in the future. What does Darwin say? Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. In terms of stocks that I own, and this is what Joe and I do in the letter, this is what we buy with our money. Right now, I've been buying, or would be buying, Eurasian EMX royalties, Auryn Resources, MRZ, Evrim, EVR is pretty interesting. It's moved a lot. I would be watching closely on that one as to how the additional trenching comes out and the drill holes to see what that does. And probably Premier Gold, which is the only producer I own, but they're doing great work in both Nevada and Mexico.
Good insights from all three, EB, Ivan, Brent. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks, Danielle.